It was something. Welcome in to the KCSN Live Royals postgame show. I'm Joel Penfield. Kevin O'Brien joining me. I am still at Kauffman Stadium. I have been here since 9:30 this morning. So we're going to try and keep this to a tight 30. If we are able, the Royals lose the final game of this series 6-5. They split with the White Sox. Off day tomorrow for the first time in a long time. And then a 3-gamer in Detroit, and then a 3-gamer against the Yankees. Tough way for this one to go. The offense breaking out just a little bit against a Johnny Hull staff effort from the White Sox. They used up their entire bullpen with Jonathan Cannon going down with an injury. That was going to be their bolt guy. Unfortunately, he's not able to go more than a couple of batters. And then the Royals bullpen kind of gives it away a little bit. Noah Cameron wasn't his best. We'll get into all of it. Kevin, you were supposed to be at the game, and then you did not end up being at the game. But what were some of your thoughts on what we saw today?
Yeah, I was originally going to be at the game, so I wasn't originally going to be able to do the post game. But a 3-hour time delay, and when you're kind of a lot of your buddies have children at home and wives at home, it's kind of one of those like, hey, we can't really stay out here on a Sunday when we got to go to work tomorrow. So, we can't be able to come back and. That's a brutal one. I mean, I think it's, in some ways you're kind of like, hey, we got some runs. Yeah, like the bats woke up a little bit. Cameron was pretty good, minus some mistakes. But if you're a team with AL Central Division winning hopes, you can't split 2-2 at home against a team like the White Sox. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what's made the Royals so good the last 2 years is they've taken care of teams like the White Sox, especially at home. And just losing 2 in ways that were kind of very atypical, with the offense not showing up in game 1, the bullpen kind of imploding in game 2. It's just one of those, like, you can't feel good because now you got to go on the road to Detroit and New York, which, I mean, that could be backbreaking if they aren't able to turn things around right now.
Yeah, and Josh IQ, who's always in the YouTube chat, made a good point. And something I mentioned earlier this week, like, you can't lose the season in April. You can't miss the playoffs in April, but you can put yourself behind the 8 ball in April. And that's kind of where the Royals are at right now. They're 7-9, and you feel like they should be 9-7 at least right now, with a couple of these games that we're hanging in the balance, coin flippy type games they have been on the wrong side of now throughout a 162 game season. That kind of evens out. So there's potential that ultimately doesn't matter, and they're going to be able to win some of these games. And I think that they showed today that they have a formula, what we saw this weekend, a formula to win some of these games with good pitching defense and then enough situational hitting. And we saw that yesterday. We saw that today in the middle innings. But I mean, from a offensive perspective, and the third inning was great. You get a leadoff, or Jack grounds out, and then it's a single from Isaac Collins, and then 4 consecutive walks with Izzy, Michael, Bobby, and Vinny, and Jonathan Cannon. It was those 3. It was a walked-in run, but inning kind of sputtered with Salvador Perez striking out. It was kind of an ugly at-bat there against Isert. And then Michael Massey grounds out. You only get 3 in the inning, which is great, but it felt like it could have been so much more.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm forgetting the Carter Jensen single, which broke the 1 for 800,000 against scoring position. And of course, it was a 50 hopper that you couldn't have rolled any better down the third base line.
Yeah, I know.
So it's kind of funny how that ended up working out. But you get 3 in the inning, you put up a crooked number, and that's great. And then the next inning, Jack hits a double, Collins brings him in, Bobby hits a single. So you saw, again, like, the runners in scoring position have swung back the other way. But after that, sixth inning, Collins got on with an error, and then it was a strikeout and a flyout. That was it. And he got second on an error. Next inning, Bobby walks to lead off the inning, fly out after he got second on a walk. More woes, especially from the guys that you should expect to bring runners in here. Bobby walks, and then Vinny comes up again, and he can't come through. And this is where, I mean, and I talked about this with Josh Kaiser a little bit during the game. We were texting, and I mean, the shake the snow globe thing, and we talked about this yesterday, even kind of just offhandedly about what moves do you make. I mean, how much longer can you let Vinny struggle like this and let Salvi struggle like this in the 3-4 spots without really shaking things up a little bit and let them get right at the bottom of the order or move them down in the order or give them an off? Because Vinny's clearly searching.
Yep.
Like he showed some stuff that makes you think, okay, he saw the ball pretty well today in a couple of spots and then just couldn't come through with a big hit. And then Salvi, I mean, it was rough all day. The 2 strikeouts were pretty bad. The fly out, I mean, he had one at bat that went kind of long, but not enough for it to really matter. The part of the question of who you put 3, that's for Q to figure out. But at a certain point, like we're bordering on definition of insanity type stuff with this offense at the top of the order, because today it was pretty clear. The plan from the 8 White Sox pitchers was, we ain't letting Bobby beat us.
Yeah.
And 2 of those walks were non-competitive from where they were throwing him in the strike zone. It was, hey, man, we'll see if Vinny and Salvi will break out of it, and if they beat us, then okay, we're willing to make that happen. And they didn't make them pay. And if you're 7-9, you're sitting in this situation, the offense is struggling, at what point do you just go, okay, hey, Vinny, take the day. Salvi, take the day. You need a break. You need a mental reset. And then we'll put you back in the order. You'll hit 5th, and we'll figure it out from there. We'll see if maybe moving things around, hitting Carter 3rd or hitting Carter 2nd and Bobby 3rd, if that moves things forward a little bit offensively, because they have to do something. We saw some improvement today, but it's still not enough.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we talked about like those, 3rd and 4th innings were very productive, but after Carter Jensen got a single in the 5th, they didn't get a hit the rest of the game. The Royals did.
Yeah.
And that's what we've seen with this offense. It seems like they show some promise. They have either a big inning or they have some stretches where you're like, okay, they're going to put it together, and then they go cold, or they just have a stretch where it looks bad. And I mean, tonight, 0 for 4 from Vinny, 0 for 4 from Salvi. Vinny had a walk.
3 strikeouts between them.
And they had, 2, you had 2 or 3 strikeouts between them. It's, and again, I've written about it, and I think that you're at the point, especially, coming into this series, coming up with Detroit and New York, if the offense doesn't continue, if the offense continues to do this, like, I don't know if you can kind of say, hey, we can just go with the status quo. I get that there's not like a lot of great options on the roster right now, but I'm also at a point where it's like, look, man, you got Starling Marte. The guy is a veteran. If he can't hack it, at least let him get some at bats to show that he can't hack it. And then,
I want to know if he can't hack it before, he's just playing against lefties and only lefties and nothing else. Right. I mean, throw him in the lineup and just see what happens. I mean, in the DH spot, like Isaac, who swung the bat well today, Izzy's still doing his thing at the bottom of the order with a walk and a sac bunt. Jack looks like he's starting to get comfy a little bit, had a good at bat against a lefty today. Threw his front hip, but still hit a ball 105 down the line for a double. And when he really has looked unplayable at times against left-handed pitching. So it's like, okay, the amount of at-bats he's seeing against lefties is starting to get things figured out a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, they have to shake the snow globe somehow. And there's not much snow to shake, but they got to do something, because it can't continue like this. There was a comment earlier about that got popped up a minute ago that hit Carter lead off. I think Michael's been too good. Like, if we want to talk about one guy in the offense that hasn't slumped, I mean, it's that guy.
Yeah.
He looks like there's no rust from the WBC. There's no ill effects from it. He's been awesome. And he looks comfortable, and he loves hitting in the leadoff spot. So that's fine. Like, the reason why Carter hit leadoff last year is because they didn't have a leadoff hitter. And they had to just do something. And he was a guy that was willing to take walks and make it work. Sure. That's where I think hitting him 2 is interesting, because it provides a little bit of protection for Michael, because like, you can't just give in to Carter. But then also, if you walk Carter, who is a guy willing to do so, then you potentially have 2 on, nobody out for Bobby, who's one of the best players in baseball. And then things fall from there. And then potentially it's 3-0 or 2-0 before you can blink. That may be the move. I'm also sitting here with a microphone in the press box. I don't have to make these decisions, but that would be something I would like to see. Just see them do something different. Like I'm all for having regular lineups, and I know people complain about that all the time that they don't have regular lineups. But the staples we've seen all year long, no matter what the bottom of the lineup looks like, it's Michael, Bobby, Vinny, Salvi. Right now, it's 16 games into a season. I'm not panicking. I'm not DEFCON 1, but to reiterate the same point over and over, something's got to change right now because this team is too talented and it is too good to let games slip away like that.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about like Michael, Izzy, obviously Carter, Bobby. I mean, even Bobby's, again, I thought he had a good game today, but you're right. Like he didn't get anything to hit today. It seemed like after he got his single, they were just kind of like, okay, we're not going to pitch to him. I mean, I think it's just you have to be able to shake things up. And again, I also think it's like you got to maximize the roster. Like I love Tyler Tolbert as a human being, great dude, really good speed, but we can't have a guy that's just sitting on the bench that's just not going to give you anything right now. I mean, it's like
he hasn't done anything. I don't think he's got maybe 2 at bats this year, and I think they were both in that weird game against Cleveland where it was raining and they pulled Bobby because it was 13-1. I think that was it. Mm-hmm. And he's had maybe 2 stolen base opportunities and he's only run once.
Right.
I mean, I think. And it's not like Nick Lofton. I'm expecting him to come out and kill it, but at least he can play a little bit and he provides a little bit more with the bat. Maybe you go down into, maybe it's a Cameron Meisner, maybe it's a John Rave. And I'm not acting like these guys are world beaters, but can for 2 weeks they provide a little bit of a spark and then you shuffle the deck once again? Sure. I mean, we'll see, but I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, they have a true off day, mental reset. They played 13 consecutive games, I think. Something insane like that. And that is a lot, even early in the season. Some, maybe just a flight, cool your head, true off day in Detroit, and then go back at it Tuesday. You miss Scooble, which is definitely helpful in that regard. So we'll see. A little more to talk about with this game. The pitching staff, Noah Cameron. We'll do that right after this.
I'm BJ Kissel, founder and CEO of KC Sports Network. Emprise Bank has been with us from the beginning. They were our first network partner, and they believed in the vision of what we were building from the start. I can't speak to any other banks or companies and how they operate, but I can tell you from personal experience and based on the growth of the network you're listening to right now, that if you have banking needs, call our friends at Emprise Bank. We've worked with so many great people there over the years, from Vicky and Aggie to Andrea, Lori, Jackie, Deb, and Aaron, and not to mention so many others that not just supported KC Sports Network, but supported our KCSN Foundation as well. But the best thing that I know is that if I have a question or a problem, no matter how dumb the question is, I know who I'm going to call and who I'm going to talk to. And I know that I'm getting an answer from someone that I can trust. And I know that person is there to help us. That's why Emprise Bank has always been and continues to be our partner in Possible. And they can be yours too. You just have to reach out. If you have a banking need, whether it's business or personal, hit me up. I will connect you directly with the same people that have helped us build KCSN. And that's our friends at Emprise Bank.
David Starnes Allstate Insurance is a proud partner of KC Sports Network, serving the Kansas City area and all throughout the Midwest. If you are looking for new coverage or something that better suits your home, auto, health, or any of your other insurance needs, give Dave and his team a call. Elevate your coverage and be worry-free with David Starnes Allstate Insurance.
Appreciate everybody watching live right now on Sunday evening. Be sure to hit that like button if you haven't already. You can leave us a 5-star review on the audio side if you're listening to this either later Sunday night or Monday morning as you're driving into the office. We really do appreciate it. Mm-hmm. All right, so Noah Cameron, he got into the 6th. He only threw 67 pitches. He was really efficient, but he wasn't really effective today. A lot of stuff, mistakes in the zone. The velo was down a little bit. Doesn't seem like there's any concern there, but just that was the data fleshed that out. The 2 walks late was really that's what did him in. That's what did the Royals in this spot. There were multiple times where he got the lead and then gave it right back. The 2 out runs are what is still kind of baffling with this pitching staff. Like, they do a great job getting the first 2 outs, and then something just is off right now. I don't think it's like mental lapses or they're not paying attention. I know sometimes Occam's razor, that's where you go to, but I don't think that applies here. He got by Tanner Murray for his career home run. Hey, good for you, man. I mean, it's hard to hit home runs in the big leagues. There's the first one. Congrats. Mm-hmm. And then he gets 2 outs, and Colson Montgomery pops for a 2-run homer. And then he settles back in fine in the 5th, and then in the 6th gets the fly out, and then a walk, a single, and a walk, and that's it. And I know the pitch count was so low, and you trust him to a point to handle those types of innings, third time through, especially with the way the bullpen has been not taxed over the last few games. You maybe consider just pulling him early, and he got you through 5, and then bridge it. Schreiber, Mears, however you want to do it. But it ends up kind of getting away from them a little bit. Mears with the walk, kind of uncharacteristic. It was a good at bat by Benintendi, but still in that situation, bases loaded, you got to get out of that. That ended up tying the game, and then they bring in John Schreiber in the 7th, it was in the 7th, and it was I'm wondering, I'm like, I don't know how this is going to go, but I don't have a great feeling. Double, walk, sack bunt, intentional walk, strikeout, but wild pitch is what ends up doing him in. And he ends up getting the strikeout in that at bat. But I mean, it's just another example of John Schreiber and high leverage. I don't know how much longer that can happen. Like, I'd give Eli Morgan a shot. I'd give maybe Nick Mears that shot and let him get an up down and try and go get that inning. Mitch Spence still hasn't pitched for this team. I know that he's a long reliever, but it's bordering on untenable with John Schreiber. Like, not quite there yet, but certainly it's been a concern over the last few outings.
Yeah, I mean, Cameron was kind of an interesting one because, again, if you look at just 34.4% chase rate, but only a 20% whiff rate, he did have a 34% CSW, which was good. But again, it's those mistakes, and the reality is Cameron's stuff is not good enough when he makes those mistakes, and we saw that today. I mean, he made some pretty bad mistakes there. The guys really crushed it. And that put him in a spot, and he kind of lost control. I kind of was with you. Like, it was hard because at one point, like, I understand, like, the pitch count was real low going into the 6th, and you're kind of like, well, like, he's been efficient. Maybe we can save an arm. But especially, I imagine this game for the Royals. I mean, every game's a must-win game. But I mean, if you're saying, hey, we're going to wait 3 hours to like play this game, obviously this game is kind of like, hey, we feel it's pretty important. Again, I don't know how these are called, but it's like we're waiting 3 hours for this. And I'm kind of surprised. Like, I kind of thought, you know what? Like you said, the Royals bullpen hasn't been very taxed the last 2 games. I thought that was an opportunity to say, hey, you know what? Maybe we need to put Eli Morgan in here for a couple innings. Maybe we need to put
and his stuff has been really good. Like, it's like he's not a normal non-roster invite guy. Like, he was really good the year prior, then he got hurt. And
Correct.
That's why he ended up as an NRI guy, not because it was like a Sam Long situation where he had like a 6 ERA and that he was just a camp body that popped for a year. It's a very different situation. And I think the way his stuff plays right now, I know it's 92, 91, but 18 inches IVB, a Bugs Bunny changeup, like it plays. And I think he needs to be more than just a mop-up guy. He was a mop-up guy in the doubleheader against the Brewers where he gave them 3 innings. That was awesome. He gave them 2 innings on, I think it was the first game of the series. But see if he can handle like an outing like that. I think he can. And it then kind of saves them from themselves having to throw John Schreiber all the time, at least right now, until he either gets things figured out or they kind of find maybe the Chris Stratton role for him in that in that spot right now, because there's not a lot of swing and miss. He walks too many guys to not strike out enough, and the contact isn't really on the ground much anymore, which was his staple when he came to Kansas City. So like the profile is changing as well. We'll see how they, we know they trust him. We know they want to use him. He's pitched like 130 some odd games for Kansas City, since coming over from Boston. So they're going to want to use him quite a bit. It's just a matter of can they and still win some of these games and hold leads and hold games where they're at.
Yeah, I agree. And that's just the big thing is that, I think John Schreiber still has a usage. I don't think even today, obviously gave up that double, walked the batter, it wasn't his best outing, but at the end of the day, how do we utilize this bullpen more effectively? And like I said, I just, with an off day tomorrow, I just thought maybe the Q should have just unloaded the bullpen a little bit, just like, just kind of like how Venable did. And Venable kind of was like, had that basically like, F it. Like, we're going to like use everybody here because we want to win this game. And I'm not saying that Q wasn't, again, it's a tough call because, he's Cameron's been so efficient. If he gets 6 innings, then you're like, okay, and I'm not sure what Urseg's availability was too, because he had gone back to
He'd
that.
only thrown 21 pitches over the last 2 days. I think if it was a 1-run game and it came down to it, I bet they would have used him with the off day tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's where you can kind of go back to using him yesterday when, Walker's pitch count was in a good spot, but in a 1-run game, it may, that's probably fine, or a 2-run game. I thought Daniel Lynch actually looks pretty good today.
No, I thought he did too.
Yeah, he had the hit batter, but the stuff is, it's been pretty good this year. I was skeptical coming into the year, and it seems like he's found it a little bit. Again, I don't think he's necessarily like in high leverage, but certainly, you can trust him in that 6th, 7th inning tie game type role. Lang looked pretty good holding the game where it was.
Yep.
Give him credit there as well. The slider for him, the stuff is ridiculous. He just, still some command stuff he's got to work through. But again, in a middle relief role, that's fine. The problem is right now the Royals have 3 relievers that you trust and then a whole bunch of dudes that you're kind of holding your breath in a few other spots. And Curtis had a comment in here about how much the Estevez injury is affecting the bullpen as it's moving everyone else up. That is a factor, but it's not like Lucas Ursig is inadequate for the 9th inning. He's really good. He closed out games for them in the playoff run. Matt Strahm was going to pitch high leverage for this team no matter what, and he had a good week. He had the game in Cleveland where he threw a whole bunch of pitches and the fastball velo was down, but he still managed to get out of the inning unscathed. He's going to be able to handle a lot of these innings. I think today, notwithstanding, Nick Mears has shown that he can handle some of that. He had 1 pitch get away from him. He was 1 pitch from getting out of the inning, and them's the breaks sometimes. But I think you still trust him more often than not. And then maybe Eli Morgan can handle some of this. I think they expected Steven Cruz to be better, but clearly there's something there. And now, again, we talked about the stuff is really good, but the command of it is not great right now. And clearly there's something that teams are picking up on, given what happened in that game in Cleveland on the day game where that blew up on him.
And I think I do think there's some effect. Whether or not it's like, do the Royals have options they can go to? Yes, absolutely. But it's just a lot different when you're like, okay, we got Estevez, Strahm, and Urseg, to now we have just Urseg and Strahm. And I think, and again, I don't think that's. I just think last year the bullpen was so dependable, and 2 years ago it wasn't dependable until Urseg came over at the trade deadline. And it definitely feels a lot like the 2024 bullpen. It's like there's some names in there, but the names are obviously regressing a little bit. There is some talent in there, with guys like Morgan, who could be like a Sam Long type. But again, I think it's just, how do they keep rotating this? Because I don't think it's ever going to be like, it's going to be as easy as last year, where it was like, okay, we know Estevez is going to be in the 9th. We know Urseg is going to be in those fireman spots. I think there might be a little bit more toying around, which I know we don't like, but it's just, that's part of the process.
Yeah, they're going to have to find the bridge to Ursig right now, or to Strahm and Ursig, because I think Strahm was going to be your 8th inning guy pretty much no matter what. And he was going to pitch the 10th today. He was warming up in the 9th before obviously the game ended. And this is where, again, I think we might have talked about this last week, or I talked about it on my show, whatever it was, that you have not Ryan Berger anymore. He's hurt, but you have Kolek coming back. You have Avila. You have Cruz. You have Mason Black. You have some of these guys that, they're getting innings in Omaha because there's not spots open. Hey, man, there's spots open. I know that they want to have Kolek be a starter. I know they want to have Kolek, they want Kolek and Avila to start, but we need outs.
Yeah.
We need outs in the 6th. We need outs in the 7th. And I think Kolek can be a Schreiber type, that like a 2024 Schreiber type, in that sinker, slider, get a ground ball, get out of an inning, can handle probably 2 innings right now as he's coming back from the oblique. And then Avila, the stuff, I think in 1 to 2 inning spurts could be high level stuff. And you could put him theoretically in the back end of a bullpen with Strahm and Ursig, and there's your 3-headed monster potentially. And some of that is just, projection, because we haven't seen Avila do it. But I think when you look at the way he pitches and the stuff, it can play in that type of role. I don't think it's necessarily ready for big league starts. And I know that they believe in him and they know they want him to be that. But right now, this team needs outs desperately in the bullpen, and I think he can give them to you in the 7th. And that way, you're not having to use John Schreiber. You're not having to use Eli Morgan in some of these high leverage spots where you may not want to. And it can maybe change some of the calculus on how they want to use this bullpen.
And they also need guys that can limit the walks. And we know that Avila last year, he limited walks. And that's what I feel like has been a big Achilles heel for this team. Last year, they were top 10 in walk per nine. This year they ranked 21st, as a bullpen. So, that's really been killing them, is just kind of allowing those free passes and then them other teams cashing in on it. They really need to make sure that they're getting those strikeouts, which we know is a priority, but also limiting free passes on the base paths.
Yeah. And, this team, I think it's tricky, and I know it's hard to say because they're 7-9 and they've kind of underachieved to this point, but I think there's still a lot of process not meeting results, I think, especially offensively.
Yeah.
This team's got to hit for power, but this team has to hit for power, though. And I think a lot of the problem, that we talk about is they're trying to string together hits. And Q talked about it post game, it was good to have the at bats that we did in the third, but it still felt like we left something on the table. We didn't get that big hit. We didn't get that home run, the bases clearing double, anything like that. And that's the next step for this team. They strung some hits together today, for runners in scoring position, but they didn't get the big hit. They didn't get the big crooked number that could have really put this game away early, when it could have gotten sideways on the White Sox entirely with Jonathan Cannon, who was supposed to give them probably 3, maybe 4 innings, getting 3 batters, and then he leaves hurt. But they still managed to piece it together, and credit to their staff and Will Venable for pulling the strings and getting it done. But definitely feel like there was a lot of missed opportunities, and there's been missed opportunities throughout this season. This team has to get it figured out if they want to get anywhere that they feel they can go.
Yeah, I mean, and you got to get those big hits from the heart of the order. I mean, it's like you're going up. You have top of the order. Right after Vinny draws a walk, Salvi strikeout. I mean, those are time. I mean, that's what really helped this offense the last 2 years, was you'd have Vinny come up with that big hit or Salvi come up with that big hit. And that's just not happening this year. And what does that mean? That you have to mix up the batting order to shake things up? I'm willing to give it a little bit more time, but if you come out of this series with another losing series in Detroit, a losing series in New York, then things look a lot different at the end of April, and where you have to make those changes. It's not just like, should we make those changes?
Yeah, and you want to kind of get out ahead of this stuff and let it be, we figured it out one game before things got bad instead of one game after, because when you're having to search that way, it gets a little bit more difficult. For the series in Detroit, 5:40 first pitch on Tuesday, Cole Reagans against Framber Valdez. Wednesday will be another 5:40. It'll be Seth Lugo against Jack Flaherty. And then Thursday, a 12:10 first pitch, Chris Bubich against Keter Montero. We will. I don't think we'll have a live post game for any of the games during the week. Just the way that the times work out, not going to work. We normally like to do the end of a series, do a post game, but with it being 12:10, I have work. So does Kevin. Not able to get away and get it done. Expect a normal episode from me on Wednesday morning, and then this weekend against the Yankees, we'll have a couple of post game shows for you then. So I think that's going to do it for this episode of the KCSN Live Royals post game show. Kevin, thank you very much for joining me, and I'm ready to get home because I have been here now for 11 and a half hours, and I need to go and see my wife and tell her I'm sorry that I was gone all day, because I think she deserves a little bit of a break for the next couple of days. Appreciate everybody listening. Again, make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll talk soon, everybody. Take care.